Hi, everybody, and welcome to the After Chat with Lisa. So excited to have you stay on, Lisa, and do this after chat with me. That was such a fun conversation. And I think that you brought so much golden advice and wisdom to the show. I really appreciate you and what you brought to the audience. I kind of want to dive deeper into this shift and what's going on since it is exclusive and it's on here Patreon, that we can dive a little deeper and talk about some more serious things.
Yeah, I'm all about it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. So the shift. So what are you seeing unrolling right now? Because there's a lot going on the big scene.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like and I don't know, like I just sort of like I said, take it with a grain of salt, but I feel a lot of earth changes. So that's the thing that actually hits my radar the most. I feel like, we have a non-functional government at the moment.
Yeah.
And I almost think, well, it's okay. Like as scary as that is, that doesn't seem to be like the big issue to me. Like I feel like what we're going to somehow we're going to come together because we have to deal with things that are bigger than that. And I think that a lot of the divisiveness that's in our country right now has been artificially created, and that I'm sort of a constitutionalist. You know what I mean? Like I feel like for the most part, Americans like agree on the Constitution, and that we're going to kind of come back to that. I also think Americans are at their absolute best when their neighbors are in trouble and we need to help. I think that we can rise to the occasion, and we have seen this happen many, many, many times, and I think that's what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if things get slightly more regional. um, I don't know if we're going to be able to get like strawberries from Chile in the middle of the winter anymore. I think
Yeah.
we're going to have to regionalize. I think we're going to have to drop our consumer heavy lifestyle. Um, Cheap goods from China may not be a thing anymore. I think local food is going to be something important. I would go run right out and get some seeds to garden. My grandparents had a victory garden, and I think about often like World War II and how everybody planted a garden because there was food, rationing and things. And I don't know if we're going to come down to that. I don't think we will, but I do think the more sufficient we can be, the more local we can be, the more helpful we can be to our neighbors. Um, I think it's maybe changing some of the isolation. Well, the sort of COVID was kind of the pinnacle of our isolated, world. And I don't think that we're gonna stay there. I think we're gonna go back more into community, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I was feeling that too, that we're gonna kind of rally together in these
Yeah,
grassroots, small community. I'm living on an island. I feel super blessed to live on an island. I was getting
hmm,
about a year or so ago, oh, do I move? My youngest is graduating, I can go. And I was getting some hits for a couple of places, and then all of a sudden it just fell flat. And it just
yeah,
bye. It was just taken off the table. You're staying where you are, you're rooted. I usually travel
yeah,
in the summertime. I go camping all the time. I did not take one trip. I literally did not go anywhere except to see my dad once during the summer, and then a second time, after a fall that he took for, taking my turn, helping him with bone repair.
yeah,
But it
yeah,
is, I see these changes and how we're going to come back to community. I actually even had a vision come through today on how we might even end up more like Europe, where certain states or regions branch off and
hmm,
do their own thing
yeah. I think that's a
as well.
possibility.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
was, go
I'm from
ahead.
New England, so New England has a very strong regional feeling. You know what I mean? And we're like a real tightly contained little subunit. And I'm like, we're gonna be fine. We're tough. New Englanders are tough. I'm like, we're gonna be fine. Nobody's gonna mess with New England. And I just think that we can be cranky, that's for sure. But when it comes to push or shove, we take care of each other. And that I just think I really believe that 90% of the people are like that, and that we're gonna rise to the occasion, whatever we have to do.
Yeah, I think so too. And the Pacific Northwest is that way too. We're a tight community and California is right there with us.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
if the shit hits the fan, that, we'll all rally together and support each other. It might get a little
Yep.
hectic and crazy and chaotic, but I think in the long run, it's like community's really gonna like
Hmm.
pull in and pull in tight, because I do see
Yes.
big changes. I
Hmm.
see like
I
in
think
this,
so too.
like we might not have this next election, is what I've been hearing. And, the things are being set up, in certain states. There's kind of like a strategic planning going on for a big, like change or information drop or something like that that might be happening. And I know that's not, it's a probability and not, something that, could, I mean, it's something that could happen. It's probability, it's not guaranteed,
It
but
absolutely is. It's not guaranteed. And I think some of the things, like, I feel like there is like a plan, like you said, and it's pretty nefarious, but I also am
yeah,
not sure they're going to be able to pull it off, because I feel like there's a lot of wild card. There's all this Uranian energy, all this Uranus surprise energy. And I think that there are going to be things that
yeah,
happen that are not, and I would say probably more like natural disasters, weather, things. I mean, first contact, or I don't even
yeah.
know if we can say first contact anymore. I'm just waiting for the aliens to land on the White House lawn, and then what happens, like
I know.
in front of all the cameras like that. Like that would be like, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some changing wild cards, wild card scenarios that will disrupt whatever plan. So chaos, it's a time of chaos, and chaos isn't something you can really control. You know what I mean? You let that out, you let that out of the kiss Pandora, you let that out of the box, and boom. It's beyond, and I feel like that's what's going to happen. Is people who think they're in control will quickly realize that they're not. Their things are outside of their control, and and I don't know. There's the wild card effect. I'm sure of it.
Fingers crossed, girlfriend, fingers crossed. But I keep on seeing the World War II thing too. And hopefully that World War II thing is like how they gathered together, how they helped their neighbors, how, just like the Underground Railroad in Maryland, where I grew up, we could have that here to protect, our friends, our local citizens and stuff like that. And the seed thing, I like this is the first, I've been here 3 years, and the first time I haven't had a garden, and it's been on my mind all summer to like buy the seeds. I bought the seeds, just in case. And my landlords have a garden next door that, they would love to share with me. So, just like tucking away a few things, those just in case things when we do need to rally together and support each other, we can come together and build a community garden together. And
Yeah, I love that. Great idea.
what else are you seeing, Lisa, on like the forefront of this big, huge shift that we're going through right now?
Um, you know, on the good side, I feel like more and more people's psychic abilities are waking up. More and more people are recognizing that they're sensitive, that they have gifts. This seems to me like awesome, so I see more and more, especially younger people. I think every generation that comes in is coming in way more aware, has way more awareness. And I feel like there is really a wave of light also washing over the world,
Yeah.
in a really beautiful way that gives me a lot of hope. And when I look at my children, they're all young adults. Um, I feel quite hopeful. I don't think they feel hopeful. I think they're really, you know, worried that there's no future for them. There's not going to be a future. But I feel hopeful when I look at them, because I think they have a whole different set of priorities and values than the boomers who are aging out, out of power have, and then they're going to make a different set of choices. So I feel quite optimistic and hopeful, for the most part. I do worry sometimes about our electrical grid. Like I'm solar here, and I have a solar battery, I have a solar car, um, because I feel like we may go through some shakiness with our power grid, and along with the seeds, I would get some power, um, whether it's a generator or something, because I don't know, the power feels like it could be shaky.
Yeah, it's already
Um,
happened. It happened to a friend
I
who
were,
was traveling, recently, and she was iffy as to whether she was able to do our last class or not. Well, she was over in Turkey. So, it's
yeah.
happening around the world, so it can easily happen here, whether it's
Mm.
a put on thing or a strategic thing or an accidental thing. There's possibilities.
Or just like this, or solar flare, a solar flare thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have a strong enough solar flare can really knock the grid out. Um, the grid is really aging. The other thing that sometimes rings my alarm bells right now is international travel, airplane travel. I think that travel will continue to be like a 50% chance that your plane, takes off, that that you have like, I was real nervous. I was just out in Santa Fe last week and I was like praying the whole time, and then they have like air traffic controller prop, they don't have enough. The system's pretty broken, and I would be real cautious about getting too far away on a plane. And I feel like especially towards the new year, I wouldn't get on a plane unless you really want to spend the next few years in Bali. You know how like in the pandemic people got stuck
Yes.
where they were?
Yep.
I you know, I think there's yeah, unless you want to go and stay and that's good. But sometimes I feel nervous about that.
It's funny because I've been thinking about that. I've been traveling around the world the last couple of years post my divorce. And, it keeps on popping in, again with that question like, do I stay or do I go? Do I go live in another country? Do I stick it out in the United States where am I most needed?
Yeah.
If the grid goes out or internet goes out, like I won't be able to like bring it to people if I'm out of the country, those things. And, that constant question, do I stay or do I go? And do I travel or do I not? And even like doing readings the other night, that was one of the big questions was like, I've been thinking about going. Do I go? Like, is it safe to travel? Should I, do this? Should I stay? And a lot of people are asking these questions.
Yeah. I think it's like if you have a big move in you, now is the time to do it. Like if you want to ditch and go live in Italy, do it now. Or Bali or wherever you want to go. I just think if you're pleasure traveling really far away, and I don't know, like, does it mean all airplanes are going to go down? I don't know, but I feel like now we just used to live in a world where the plane was scheduled, it landed, it went off, it landed, there was a schedule we could rely on. I don't
Yeah.
know how much longer time we have on that.
Yeah, the systems really are kind of crumbling. And it's not just one or two
Yeah.
systems that we need to rebuild. We need to rebuild them all because they're
No, it's
yeah,
a
they're
total crap. It's
yeah,
total reset.
yeah, yeah, I agree. And the self-sufficient, the local, the helpful, I think that's awesome that you brought that in, the seeds, the, regionalizing us, that we're not going to be able to get those strawberries, that it's going to be seasonal, for us. And what does that
Hmm.
look like? And I was even thinking recently, like, I have a book on my bookshelf and like getting into my yard and like walking through, like, I know some of the local plants, but I don't know them all. And I think that that would be really beneficial, to like get to know
Yeah.
your local plants. And then that just helps the earth because then you're being a steward for the earth. I think we need to come back to like the planet is part of us and she does nurture us and we need to nurture her back. And, also she has a temper and she brings earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Like we have Mount Rainier here in Washington
Yeah.
State, and we have the possibility for earthquakes and stuff like that. And I know that, the Pacific Ring is really lighting up right now and Russia
Right.
is lighting
Sure is.
up.
Lots of volcanic activity. I think that's going
Yeah.
to continue to be a thing. And when I think about weather and earth changes, that's what comes to my mind. And ever since I was little, I've had a recurring dream about a tsunami. And I don't know, like I've never been able to figure out, is that like an analogy for the wave of light moving across the planet? I don't know what the wave is. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I dream about it. I'm like, oh, there was the wave. It's a thing. Like it shows up in my consciousness a lot. I don't know if it's a past life. I have no idea what it is, but I think that's I think there's going to be a lot more um, big weather, big storms, big, earth changes, earthquakes, those kinds of things, volcanoes. Um, I do.
It's good to hear you say that, like, I don't know what it is because a lot of the things, like my dreams, some of the hits I get, and I know friends who, are psychics. And it's like sometimes we just don't know what it means. And we
Right.
have to be okay with that. And for
Yeah.
a person who likes to know, it's really hard. So, like, for the fellow psychics out there, like, how do you manage, Lisa? Like, it's like, okay, I got this thing, but I don't know what it means. It's like that funny reel that you see, like, on Instagram or something. It's like my dreams, and it's like me trying to decipher my dreams. And, it's like clowns running across the street and all this other stuff. And it's like how do I even like, and like with the tidal wave, like it could be anything. It could be that tidal wave of emotion that comes over us and we watch it go over because we're underneath the water and watching it go over. Or is it the wave of light that's coming through? Or
Right.
is it literal
An
tsunami?
actual tsunami. I don't know. I think, like I said, it goes in the X Files, my X Files book, and I don't think we know until after the fact. Those things become clear in the rear view. Um, but I think we can try to vibe with it and then carry on, with our day and not get too strung out on it because I don't think we can now. Curiosity, I find curiosity. Like I'm like, oh, what does that mean? What I don't know, but I'll put it in the X Files, and I just try not to get too strung out about it.
I love that you have a diary and it's called the X-Files diary. I have mine. I've never thought about naming mine beyond dream journal, but since I started getting like extra hits, like when I'm waking up and something like that, I've got this new habit this year of just like jotting down all of my thoughts that like come in. And I love that you call it like the X-Files.
The X Files. It's the things I don't understand. They just go into the X Files, the
And it's
mysteries.
so true. Like sometimes we do not know until after the fact. Like in 2011, when I, had the fire, it's like it told me something terrible. Like I got the doom feeling, like I shot up in my chair and was like, oh, please not my children, and then the fire, it didn't tell me it was going to be a fire, and I
Mm.
think it's the same like with this, like they give us those little kicks, like, okay, something's coming. So be prepared, do the praying, like whatever you need to do. Like,
Yeah,
here's your little hint that something's on its way and, you can do what you need to do in order to like whatever.
totally. I
But
think a lot of it is beyond our comprehension. Like I got the heebie-jeebies 6 months before 9/11, and I would see this image of this like skyscrapers with like a mushroom cloud around them. I was like, is
wow,
someone going to nuke a city? And it was going to be September. I'm like, is someone going to nuke a city? And then I thought my birthday's in September, and weird stuff always happens to me. Like big things always happen to me in September, and I'm like, I'm going to get divorced. That's what that is. It's like the
oh
bomb dropping
wow.
on my life, and I swore up and down it was personal. I thought it was about just me. You know what I mean? And then after 9/11 happened, I was like, oh, well, that's what that meant. But who would have imagined in a million years that somebody was going to fly airplanes into, skyscraper? Like, there was no context for understanding. There was no way I was ever going to figure out what that was until afterwards.
Wow.
And because it was just so far outside of our comprehension, so far outside of any all of us, the entire humanity's idea of what could happen. You know what I'm saying? So I think that what happens there, and that's why in the rear view it's often clear. Like in the rear view mirror, that the fire happened, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what that was. But I
Yeah.
don't know if we can know in before it happens.
God, I love that explanation, Lisa, because it's so true. Like we can get it, but we can't comprehend it. Yeah. To like
We have
bring it
no
in.
we have no frame of reference
Yeah.
for that. I None of us had any frame of reference for 9/11. That was
Yeah.
not something that was a possibility before it happened.
Yeah. And I know a lot of things like
you
when I
know?
pick up stuff, like I'll do it and I don't watch the news. I try not to like follow people who are dooming and glooming or talking a lot of political stuff or
Mhm.
anything like that. So what I do is like if something comes in, I like fact check myself. I'll go and be like top headlines or
Yeah.
earthquakes around the area or
Yep.
tsunamis around the area or where are the fires in Washington State or, whatever it might be. Yeah, there's always it's that after. And, sometimes I'm like, I'm glad I don't know because would I have been able to change it? No.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It can be a torturous psychic gift. And I've worked with some people that have like really extreme precognition, and they see things like airplane crashes and car crashes, like that's very random and very not connected to them. And it's a bit torturous if you see it and you can't do anything about it, which most of the time we really
Yeah. What advice do you give your friends around that?
can't. I'm like, shut it off. Just, see if you can find the off switch for that and see if you can turn it off. I do think it happens to people that are very hyper vigilant, and it's kind of like a psychic hypervigilance, you
Hmm.
know. And I often find if they go back and clean up the trauma in their life that gave them that hypervigilance, that gift goes away or calms down.
Oh my gosh, that's so true because I think my mother was a great trainer for my intuition because I had to know was she waking up in a good mood or a bad mood? Like what mom
Yep.
was I going to get? So to be
Yep.
able to read a room and read a person is like my superpower.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I know. Yeah, it's like a trauma response almost. And,
Yeah.
if you go back and deal with the trauma, then sometimes that gift sort of like right sizes something more comfortable.
Mhm. Yeah, then there's the other things, being able to predict the plane, being able to predict the crash, the knowing the fire is coming, the knowing when there's a baby going to be born into the family. And a new one for me is I'm doing the death journey now, which I'm just now learning about. And I find that my adventure has been very much like figuring it out as I go, like going to all the classes and being like, okay, I'm like learning the same beginner class like over and over again, and diving into like, okay, the information's not out there. I have to figure this out on my own and diving into, okay, how do I receive the information? What does that look like for me? And then what do I do after? And kind of like the experiential learning throughout my 55 years of life. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's sort of like really following the breadcrumbs, really following the in again in a way that feels very productive, right? So you're using that as a springboard for your personal and spiritual development, which is I think what we're meant to do.
Yeah, I think so too. And it never ends. It's
No,
like it
it
never ends.
no,
Like
it
there's
never ends.
always new stuff.
Yeah, not until you're like you're in your ascended master lifetime. Like if you're like the Buddha, maybe Jesus on the cross, that happens. But us regular people, there's always the next level to unfold. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. The energy just shifted. That feels like a great stopping point. Lisa, would you like to leave our exclusive content listeners here on Patreon with, any insight before we sign off?
I would say this is a really good time. And again, not in a spiritual bypassy kind of way to do this, but to really hold a higher vibe, hold a higher vision. Let's see what we can create. If we're conscious creators, can we create a world where, everyone is taken care of, where everything is, people are valued? Like, what are your values? And can you, even just for 5 minutes every day, like imagine, visualize, hold that, maybe do a vision board, so we can kind of hold the collective in a higher actual, not just a higher vibe, but an actual vision. I think that would be really helpful right now.
Yes. Ah, amen to that.
Mhm.
I'm right there with you. Thank you for that. That was an awesome, awesome piece of wisdom to bring to everybody. Thank you, Lisa. And you know what,
Thanks.
Lisa, it's been such a pleasure to host you and to get to know you and have you on the show. I'm really glad that you reached out to join Raise the Vibe with Liz. And I'd love to have you back if you ever want to come back. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Come back when you have your new book out. Can't wait.
I sure will. Yeah, that'll be great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Lisa. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll see you at the next After Chat. Bye now.